Welcome, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We are at the Healer's Journey free webinar learning series, and tonight's webinar is about miracles. And I really had some trouble with this title because I wanted to convey the message about what miracles are, but it was more than that. It was about how to connect with miracles and access miracles and bring miracles into your life and recognize miracles and how to not block miracles from happening. And so how do you put that all in one title, right? So I just left it as miracles and appreciate the simplicity of it, but gave it sort of some fancy font there to let you know that we're talking about some big stuff. And if you're just joining us for the first time, if you've missed the other two webinars that we've done, let me just briefly introduce myself. You know me, I'm Rosemary, and some of you are students. I'm Reiki Master Shaman and have been doing intuitive work for many years. This is my dog Gracie. If you are online, you'll see the picture. And I'm also the author of a book called Heal Together, Natural Health Solutions for Animals and Their Humans. First, of course, the disclaimer. You know how I feel about disclaimers, that, you know, we have to say them the way they want us to say them. So I'll just say that the information expressed and presented through this webinar is not a substitute for medical care and is in no way meant to diagnose, prescribe, treat, or cure disease. It is also not a religious nor a prescription for recommendation for alternative care, but rather purely for personal knowledge and growth. And one of these days, I'm going to ask you to help me write a claimer rather than a disclaimer. We've been beginning with a glossary, and in previous glossaries, we've had words like healer and magic and medicine. And today I want to focus a little bit on miracles and then a couple of other words. Miracles. The dictionary describes miracles as an effect or extraordinary event in the physical world that surpasses all known human or natural powers and is ascribed to a supernatural cause, a work of God, a wonder, or marvel. But I like to think of miracles as normal, natural, everyday events. Even though we can't explain how or why something happens, when we are in alignment with all that is, in other words, God, Spirit, Buddha, the universe, we provide for the purest expression of God in ourselves, in all events, things, beings, thoughts, words, and actions. In addition, using the word normal doesn't minimize anything. Instead, we bring to light what we may frequently take for granted in everything from how cells work to why stars shine. Heal. The dictionary describes healing as becoming sound or healthy again. And cure is a treatment that relieves symptoms or something that restores one to good health. But what if we look at healing as a way to restore to wholeness, coming into alignment with all that is, goodness, God. And then healing then becomes an easier task. Rather than trying to fix something with a treatment, focusing on what's wrong, we seek a course of coming into alignment with the highest vibration of health. In other words, focusing on what's right, good, and what's working. Now, if you've been with us over the past 2 webinars that I've done, the first webinar, we talked about your story, the signs of a healer, of being a healer, and how to recognize yourself as a healer and what a healer really means. And the second webinar, we talked about magic and medicine, just briefly mentioning miracles. And the magic, of course, is the gifts and talents that we all have and that we recognize in each other. And the medicine is the skills and knowledge and the way we live our lives and how we use our magic. Now, this third webinar is about miracles. And what I'd like to do is share with you a few miracles of nature and discuss the possibilities for accessing their magic. Through the course of the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll talk about different aspects of miracles and how we block miracles in our lives. Then, I hope you'll discover ways to not only access the magic of miracles, but also recognize the miracles that exist in you. At the end of the presentation, I'll share with you a few tools to help you get started, as well as a chance to learn more. In addition, I'll be following up next week with another webinar in the Healer's Journey series to touch upon another aspect of what it means to be a healer in today's world and offer additional tools for you to integrate. Now, there's always an opportunity to reach out for personal mentorship, supportive classes, or intuitively guided healing sessions, and I'll share with you how to do that at the end of the webinar. So I want to make sure we keep track of time and honor everybody's time to keep as close to the goal as possible. And my intention is to provide a full and balanced webinar from which we can all benefit. Now, in your story, when we talk about your story, your experiences, your miracles that you've come across in life, we find that science comes into play. Now, how many of you are familiar with or remember your science classes and your experiences with science? And I know some of you are scientists like myself. I was a biology teacher for many years, and I have a great love for science. Well, we use science, or science attempts to explain miracles in nature through observation, through exploration, and experimentation. But what I want to do now is show you a few pictures that I thought would share some thoughts of miracles. So I'm going to actually open up the lines. And if you feel like you have some background noise or you don't want to say anything, go ahead and mute your line. That's fine. So let's continue with some of these pictures of miracles that I see as miracles. All right, for those of you who are on the phone and you can't see these images, I'll just mention what it is here. These are snow-capped mountains with purple crocuses in the foreground with grass, a picture of nature. And how did these mountains form? And why are the flowers purple? Are they edible? Can we grow them as a food source? So what sciences have been developed in order to answer these questions? How did these mountains form? What science would deal with that aspect? I hear beautiful budgies singing in the background. If you could mute your line, I would appreciate that.
Rosemary,
That's okay.
It's Kate.
Hi, Kate. I love budgies. But if you could mute your line, that'd be great.
Budgies. Yeah.
Thank you. Happy budgies. So how do these mountains form? Who could tell us the science of how the mountains form? I'll give you an example. Might geology be involved with that? Yes? Geology. And yet when people before science looked at mountains, they may have wondered how the mountains got there and how the valleys got there and how everything happened. And they may have taken it for granted, or they may have done some ceremony about the mountains actually being there. And what about these flowers being purple? Okay, why are they purple, and can you eat them? So we may have developed through the course of science botany or agriculture. Do you see where we're going with this? We're looking at pictures that, in my opinion, show miracles of nature and the science that has come about that helps explain some of the miracles. You see? Okay? So let's go with the next picture. All right, here's a picture of a bee on a flower. Now, why are bees attracted to certain flowers? And how do bees make honey? How do flowers form seeds? Flowers and bees evolve together, and what happens if there are no bees? Do you see what we're talking about here? The miracles that are evident in this simple scene of a bee on a flower is that hey, there is a bee, it's winged, and it is doing something in the middle of that flower. It is getting something from the flower or putting something into the flower, or maybe it's eating the flower. Through observation, experimentation, exploration, science has discovered through entomology that bees and flowers have evolved together. Now there's a miracle that bees and flowers have evolved together, that flowers can in fact form seeds, and that little grain or whatever that seed looks like can grow into a brand new plant that has similarities to the plant that it came from. So the miracles here are normal occurrences, and we'll get to where we're going in a few minutes, but we're going to do a few more of these pictures. Here's a picture of a lotus in the water, and I ask, why are plants green? And why are, yes, sorry?
Photosynthesis, is that right?
Yeah, there's something in the plant that makes it green, yes. And of course science has looked at these green things and chemically analyzed every aspect of what is happening in the plant, and they discovered a process that all plants go through, and they've called it photosynthesis. Absolutely. But the plant is green, but this flower is pink. Okay, why is the flower pink? And why do these plants grow in water? Now, do frogs that are in the water sitting on these leaves, do frogs come from the leaves of the water plants? Did you know that people used to think that? Yeah, they would see the frogs sitting on the leaves and they'd say, oh, frogs come from leaves.
That's funny.
Yeah, well, and why do some bodies of water have these plants and other bodies of water have different plants? So the sciences of ecology, biology, botany, zoology, limnology, they've all come into being because there's been some specialty research into the how and why these things actually exist. So the miracles are there, and everybody's always wanting to know how this or why that. Now here's a picture of jellyfish. It actually looks like a painting of jellyfish in the water. Are these water creatures plants or animals?
Animals.
Well, they are. We know that. But if you're looking at them, they might look, gee, kind of like a mushroom. Well, is a mushroom an animal or a plant, or maybe neither? And what are those long things hanging from that creature? Are those roots? You see? So we want to know how, we want to know why, and yet these creatures are, they exist in salt water mostly, and are they edible? Are they dangerous? Is there something about these creatures, something that perhaps could help me in some way? Well, people discovered that there are toxins in the little cells that are in the tentacles of these animals, and these toxins have an effect that could be helpful in some way. Maybe they could be diluted and used as a poison for something. So I'm not a specialist in jellyfish or in toxicology, but I know that scientists, one of the things scientists do, especially these days, is they're going out and investigating all the different plants and animals that they can find, looking for, gee, what do you think they're looking for? If they're testing plants and animals for chemical substances, what do you think they're looking for?
Cures?
Yeah, cures, drugs. That's what they're looking for, things that they could synthesize into drugs. They're looking for natural substances, things that occur in nature that could be made and synthesized in a laboratory and sold as a drug. That's what they're doing. Okay, on people who are online can see this is thunder. Lightning, not thunder. This is the lightning in the sky. And people might have thought, gee, what is this fire in the sky? Is it dangerous? Are the gods angry? And what does it mean? Now, can I use this, whatever this is happening, can I use this in some way, this energy? Can I harness it for some kind of benefit? So the sciences that come through meteorology, acoustics, mythology. Here's a close-up, a microscopic picture of plant cells. So when I said, why are plants green? Well, it's not really the plant that's green. It's something inside the cells of the plants. And it wasn't until the scientists developed a microscope, I believe it was von Leeuwenhoek, who developed a microscope, a different series of lenses that allowed him to see inside leaf tissue, and that there were these chambers. He actually saw empty chambers. He was looking at dead leaves, and the empty chambers didn't have these green things in them. But now we know these little green things floating around are chloroplasts, and they're what make the plants green because they have a pigment called chlorophyll. So there's this magic inside the plants, and actually if you go deep back into the evolution of, gee, well, how did this happen? How did a single cell become a multi-celled organism, and how did a multi-celled organism get these green things inside of it that work with it to capture light energy for that process of photosynthesis? You see, this is normal for plants. And it was discovered by people at some point. And all of a sudden, this mystery of why are plants green was solved because they could see it. Now let's switch a little bit to patterns. And if we look at patterns in nature, I love to look at patterns in nature, don't you? Here's a picture of a wave. This is a wave that is about to break on the shore, so it forms this beautiful pattern that is like a spiral. Where else have you seen spirals? And if you're looking online, you see that on the left side, there is a picture of grains of sand through a microscope. So grains of sand enlarged greatly, and that blue one there in the middle has that shape again, that spiral shape. And on the right side, there's a plant. It's a succulent plant, and it has spirals. The leaves are arranged in spirals. So there are patterns in nature between things that are living, and even the sand grains, which technically are not living, they're not made up of cells, and yet patterns are being repeated in nature. gee, why is that? Why are we seeing patterns? Now here's a picture of, does anybody know what this is? For all you crystal buffs out there? This is a raw ruby. It's corundum, that's the mineral, and it is a raw ruby in a hexagonal shape. Can you detect that hexagon right there? And look closely at the surface, that top surface of the ruby. Can you see any imprints in there? Can you see any triangles in the surface of the ruby? Almost like etchings. So there are patterns that exist in crystals due to the chemical nature of the minerals that make up these crystals. Snowflakes, beautiful picture. I borrowed from Don Komarechka online, and these are pictures of snowflakes. Water forms beautiful patterns in nature, and every snowflake has its own unique shape. Now, what about Dr. Emoto and his studies in water? Is everybody familiar with Dr. Emoto and his book, The Messages in Water? On the left is a picture from of water before prayer, and on the right is a picture of water after prayer. And the water in the picture of after prayer has formed a beautiful pattern, very much like the snowflake pattern. Whereas before, I don't know the history of that water. It obviously has gone through some troubled times, looking like that terrible mass that it is. Whereas the one on the right is in a beautiful pattern. Now, when I first read his book, Dr. Emoto's book, The Healing Messages in Water, I was skeptical. It's before I was doing Reiki, before I was doing this work, and I was skeptical, and I thought, gee, is he just taking pictures of water and showing us the pictures he wants to show us? I really did think that. But the more I felt it, the more I became aligned with the energy of water, and I love water. I love living water. I love to bless water. I love to drink water. It's my favorite fluid. The more I began to understand where he was going with this. And we are mostly water, aren't we? And we are on a planet that is mostly water. And yet, if we say things that are not in alignment with all that is, if we do things, if we put things in our body that are not in alignment with all of these miracle things that I've been showing you, all the beautiful formations of the mountains and the flowers and the patterns in the sand and the patterns in the plants, if we're doing things to ourselves and saying things to ourselves that are not in alignment, then we're going to get that blobby looking thing on the left, and on the right, the alignment that we're looking for, that beautiful pattern that we're looking for, means that something has to be different. Something has to be different in us in order to experience that kind of pattern, that kind of harmony. And that's where the miracle comes in. Now, I recently started a I recently started a board on Pinterest that is called Miracles of Nature. So if you go on to Second Nature Healing and click the Pinterest sign and take a look there, you'll find a few things, a few pictures from this presentation and a few others, and I'll be adding to that, and I would love for you to send me other pictures of miracles that you believe are miracles in nature, and I'll add them to the board and share them. Now let's talk for a moment about vibrations. one of my favorite topics. I'm all about vibration. Now, vibration comes to us in many forms. Vibration comes to us through sound, light, color, emotions, scent, thoughts, touch, Reiki, of course. Lots of vibrations. We are surrounded by vibrations. We are vibration. Now, how vibration expresses itself through us is something that we're going to talk about in relation to miracles. Now, in this next slide, you'll see a picture of a cricket. Yes, it's a Photoshopped cricket. It has a little Jiminy Cricket hat on it. And there's a full, probably close to an hour soundtrack of what I'm going to share with you now in just a few seconds. So listen closely. All right, did you hear that? That is actually 2 tracks playing simultaneously. You see, crickets live for a very short time, just about 90 days. It's a very short lifespan. And there are 2 tracks playing at the same time. One track is the normal sound of crickets chirping. And the other track is slowed down to match the equivalent of a human lifespan. So what they've done is they've taken the 90-day cricket lifespan, slowed it down to be, I don't know, 70 years. And what you get, I'll play one more time. It's much prettier on the original track. I apologize for it not sounding quite so clear. But did you hear anything that sounded like a choir singing? Yeah?
Kind of.
Yeah? Okay, so kind of like a choir singing. They actually call it, I guess they gave this YouTube video a title of angelic cricket sounds or angelic something, sort of like a choir singing. So they've taken this quick vibration of crickets, slowed it down, and we get something that is very pleasing to the ear. And of course, cricket sounds just by themselves are very pleasing. So why are we harmonizing? Why are we resonating with the sound of crickets in nature? It is a natural sound. It is one of those miracles in nature that if we can align to, then perhaps we can tap into that magic that they offer and experience the miracle at the same time. Now, for those of you who have been here to my healing center, you've seen this table. And for those of you who are just on the phone, I'll describe to you what is in the picture. This is a picture of a wooden table. It is an antique wooden table, and it is up against the window of my room, where outside the window is a dogwood tree. No, sorry, not a dogwood, a star magnolia tree. On the table is a beautiful orchid in a red pot. There is an antler. There are bottles of essential oils, some crystals in heart shapes, tuning forks, a giant apophyllite crystal. There are some feathers here, and there's some information as well on how to use essential oils. So in this picture, tell me what objects in this image hold natural vibrations that are harmonious with the body. So what is in this picture?
Almost all of it.
Almost all of it? Yeah? Is there anything that is not holding a natural vibration that is harmonious with the body? I will say that the crystal is sitting on a cotton quilted square that I sewed together. Under that you can't see is a canvas board so that the weight of the crystal doesn't dent the table. Or is it all harmonious? What do you think?
No, I guess I'm going to say all of it is.
Yeah, yes, it is all harmonious. It is all placed there with intention. That table actually is one you wouldn't know. I'm just about to tell you. This table was given to my mother-in-law's mother years ago when my mother-in-law's mother did something wonderful, did something nice for a friend of hers, and the friend gave her this table. And so it holds the energy of that compassion and that generosity and the connection of those women at those times. And I love that table, that it is that it holds that. So it's wood and it's antique. There are no nails in that table. It's all, dovetailed together. So yeah, the table itself is high energy. There are crystals all holding their own energy, the antler, the plants, everything, even the window connecting to outdoors. Everything holds a vibration. Everything is placed there with intention. And so how can you use items in your life as tools to assist you in a vibrational realignment? Now, we didn't talk about realignment yet, but it'll be more clear when we go into the next slide. Here is a picture of, it's a screenshot of my recently written article, How to Block Miracles. If you're on my newsletter list, you received this in an email recently, How to Block Miracles. And of course, blocking miracles means that you're not in alignment with all that is. You're out of alignment in some way. And how do you block your miracles from happening to you? How do you block health and healing? How do you block manifesting? How do you block being well and happy? Well, self-sabotage was one. Confusion. Let your emotions run your life. Denial, unworthiness. Are these experiences that we have all had at some time?
Yes. Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? If you're confused about something, you're having a hard time making a decision. What does that mean? Is there a chakra that is associated with confusion, not being able to make decisions?
These are the solar plexus?
It could be the solar plexus because you don't really know who you are, so you don't feel like you can make a decision. What about groundedness? Yeah, if you're not grounded, you can't make decisions. What about if you're not clear in your mind? You don't have a connection to your intuition. Could you be confused?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, of course. And what about emotions now? If you are really angry about something, maybe you're angry all the time, or maybe you're upset all the time, or maybe you're upset some of the time. It can be some of the time, not all the time. But if you let these really strong emotions run your life, then you're not letting other things come into your life. Emotions are very powerful, and they can work for you or against you. Is anybody familiar with Candace Pert, Dr. Candace Pert? She wrote a book. Yeah, she passed away just recently, a couple years ago. And what a phenomenal speaker. If you can look anything up on her, Dr. Candace Pert, P-E-R-T, she wrote a book called The Molecules of Emotion. And it was through her studies that, in conjunction with some of the other work that was being done at the same time, that she was actually able to scientifically unravel some of how emotions affect the health of the cells and the health of the person. She says that there are chemicals in the cell membrane that communicate with other cells. And these chemicals in the cell membrane are either going to relay the message of harmony and peace and well-being, or danger, something's wrong, something's bad. You see? And so if you're having these emotions, you are actually physically changing the chemistry of your body. And so she talks about that in her book. Gee, here's some science that is explaining health. Science that is explaining how people can actually sabotage themselves by using very strong negative emotions. Denial, unworthiness, these are things that will block miracles from happening to you. And of course, we say miracles are what? Miracles are normal. Miracles are a normal state of being for everything that is well and good and in alignment to all that is. And you have the ability to block it or unblock it. Now I'm going to pause for just a moment, and I know the lines are open. I appreciate you being here, and I'd like to take a moment to have you share a few thoughts about your experiences, about opening yourself to miracles. Share with me some ideas that could manifest miracles for you. Would anybody like to give it a try?
I think having clear intentions about what you want in your life is really important for the miracles to take place.
Clear intentions are a great place to start. Yes. What is your intention? And so many people are going through their lives without any intention at all. You know, with just, I'm going to just get through the day just because I want to get through the day. You know, I have to do this and this and this and this. Okay, if that's all you have for an intention, what are you going to get, right? You're not going to get anywhere. Great. So having a specific intention would be very valuable. Great. Anybody else want to give it a try?
Being open.
Being open? Sure.
Receiving the miracles. Are you asking for how to receive the miracles, or what types of miracles?
Yeah, that's part of it. Share with me some ideas that could manifest miracles for you. And also, if you have a story you want to share, a few thoughts about your experiences about opening yourself to miracles, that would be also very welcome. So, yeah, being open to miracles, that's a huge step, because, of course, if some people are completely closed, skeptical perhaps, or just not open to receiving, they're the ones that have their hand up in front of them saying no. Okay, well, if it's no, then it's really no. So sure, being open to miracles would be important. Anybody else?
I think remembering that your faith and your thoughts create your experience, right? So if you continue to think about the things that you want, you're going to attract more of that, right? So by thinking about it, you're continuing to stay open and connected to the things that you are intending.
There's a lot of talk about that over the past many years. Abraham Hicks Esther Hicks, who channels the entity Abraham, talks a lot about the law of attraction. And in the law of attraction, we know that if we are constantly thinking of what's wrong and focusing on what's wrong, you're going to get more of the same, what's wrong. And so that's where that shift is important, in focusing instead on what's right. Yeah? We want to focus on what's right, what's in alignment, what's beautiful, what's it supposed to be. Excuse me. Anybody else? What about healing and cures? We put those in the glossary today. Anybody want to talk about healing and cures in relation to miracles? You almost hesitate to say anything, right? Because what do people pray for when they're really, really sick?
Miracles.
Miracles.
Yeah.
Miracles. Cures.
Yes, they're praying for miracles. They're praying for a cure, something that will happen to them, some kind of divine intervention that will fix a problem. Yeah? And that happens. There are documented stories and cases of divine intervention that have come about to fix a problem, to prevent death, to they're all over the place. You can read these amazing stories, and they're wonderful, and I have no doubt that they exist. But I want to take it down to the microscopic level. I want to say, is it possible for us to bring in that element of faith, bring in the alignment to what is right, and create the miracles in us all the time? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yes.
I think so. Yeah, I think it is. And it might be something that we start now, right? Because it's so much harder for some people when they're really, really sick. When you're really, really sick, it's really hard to feel positive, right? To feel like you have strength, to feel like you can do this. It's hard because you're in a point where your vibration, remember vibration was one of the things we talked about today. When your vibration is really low, it's kind of a lot of work to bring it up. And it doesn't have to be, because you can access some of the tools that we talked about that will raise your vibration. Some of the tools like I have in my healing space, some of the tools you have available to you, good nutrition, Reiki, crystals, essential oils, good thoughts, prayer. All of these things are tools. Being out in nature, hugging trees, laying on the ground, going to the ocean, listening to crickets, all of these things harmonize yourself with nature and raise your vibration. And so if we look at miracles not as a religious thing or a medical thing, we just look at it as a normal thing where we want to come into alignment with what is right, then we can actually do some of the things that we want to do as healers for ourselves and for other people. Do you have any other experiences or comments you'd like to share?
Would synchronicities be considered miracles?
Synchronicity, sure, absolutely, and coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. Everything has a plan, and absolutely, things happen for a reason. Things happen with an intention. Anybody else? Okay, I hear somebody with some background noise. If you would like to speak, please speak. Otherwise, mute your line. And we are just about ready to finish up here. we'll be thinking of these things as we go along, and I'll be sending you some materials after the webinar. Give me a day or two to bring it all together. Oops. How to open yourself to miracles. So that's what the next download is going to be about, how to open yourself to miracles, how to access some of that normal stuff in nature that brings you more into alignment with all that is. So you can focus on the good things and the healthy things and the high vibration things. Now, in the healer's journey, this is your personal story. It begins with a journey of discovering your gifts and healing abilities. We'd like to see you become the healer that you were meant to be. And of course, you don't have to do this alone. You can reach me through my website. Best way to reach me is through secondnaturehealing.com, or you can email me, rosemary@secondnaturehealing.com. And we also have, coming up in January, we'll be teaching our classes in a new space called Vibrant Studios. Michelle and I are very excited to be in that space and be teaching classes there. We have an expanded program for you to bring yourself forward on the journey of becoming a healer, becoming the healer you are meant to be. The Illumination Reiki program will also be unfolding and appearing in February and March, and that is available to everybody who is attuned to Reiki 1 and 2. More on that later. And if you have any specific questions, I welcome you to call me. If you are somehow not on my list for the Healer's Journey webinar, please go to secondnaturehealing.com/webinar.html and register, and you'll be getting, that's where you get not only the recording for being here on the call tonight, but you get the extra download information that I put out to everybody. And I just want to say thank you. I'm going to turn off the recording, but I'm also going to stay on the line for just a few minutes because I have a question for those of you who are willing to give me some feedback. So here's the recording ending. Thank you so much for being here tonight.